Yeah.
And he coached them hard.
Yeah.
But look at their last 2 games, the most important games of their season, the championship game and the Super Bowl. The defense generated 7 turnovers. The offense scored 95 points. You can't beat that. You cannot beat that. You talk about running into a buzzsaw, and you talk about everybody said, oh, complimentary football, complimentary football. That is complimentary football. Jalen Hurts threw a really bad interception in the game. Mahomes did it last year against San Francisco. The defense got his back.
Yeah.
The defense just erased it. And that is complimentary football. Give the ball back to the offense, and God forbid the offense gives it away. We got your back. Let's not make a habit of it, but we got your back.
Yeah. I wanted to highlight this mainly because of the 7 turnovers and the fact that they scored 95 points. And we know it would have been more than that for both games. So it could have been over 100. Because there's this whole confusion about, I see a lot of teams saying, a lot of fans saying, if they didn't turn, if the Commanders didn't turn the ball over, or if the Chiefs didn't turn the ball over, like the Eagles would have lost and this or that. And it's like, guys, that doesn't make up the massive deficit that the Eagles were doing in every level of the game. You know, people were saying like, the Commanders, they were Jaden Daniels was moving the ball at will against the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's like, I understand the argument. I do. But it was the Philadelphia Eagles defense that was, in a lot of ways, saying, we're going to give you something, and then we're going to beat you after that something, whatever it may be. And essentially also when Cooper DeJean now going up against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, it's like, we're actually really not going to give you anything. Because the way we beat you is by just getting after you. And we're going to force you to be a quarterback. We're going to force you to go through the progressions. We're going to force you to play quarterback in a very elementary way. And that's how we're going to beat you. We're going to get after you. And they did. And this whole idea, though, where it's like, well, if we just remove some of these turnovers, again, I get the logic, and I can even use it myself in certain instances. But this is very intentional from the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, these are not fluke turnovers. It's not. This is aggression. This is opportunistic. This is making the play when the play is there to be made. This isn't just Patrick Mahomes fumbling the snap, Jaden Daniels fumbling the snap, not looking, and they call hike, and then they're like, oh no, now they're running around. Like, that's not the story here. And even if it is, like, the turnovers that they created, the 7 and 95 points, best case scenario, 7 turnovers, 7 touchdowns. That's only 49 points. So you're still talking about a whole nother chunk of points. If they were winning these games 28-21, 28-14 or something, 28-0, heck, I could understand then a little bit. I could understand. Because then people tried to make the argument even in the Super Bowl. Oh, well, the Kansas City Chiefs defense actually played pretty good against the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's like, they hung 40 on them. Yeah, but the turnovers and they still couldn't stop them. Not to mention, you understand that red zone defense is its own defense too, right? There's a world where the Kansas City Chiefs defense can stop the Philadelphia Eagles offense and force a field goal. You understand that's a thing that can happen, especially when it matters in the game, not at the end when they're obviously just like totally content with kicking field goals. So I reject that notion. And that's why I'm so happy that when we really put it that, point blank, like it's a buzzsaw. 7 turnovers, 95 points. It's not just defense. The defense is the conveyor belt, and the offense is the buzzsaw. It's all the levels here. It's complete complementary football. Because I that's what drives me crazy. People say, oh, well, if the defense wasn't so good, then Jalen Hurts wouldn't win, or or whatever it is. Oh, Saquon Barkley, they have the lead and then the defense, and it's like, no, guys, this is circular. This is, it's literally the foundation and definition of complementary and working off of one another and feeding off of each other. But I understand that people try to fight to make sense of an outcome, and I get it. We all do that. But we keep trying to find these singular reasons why. The turnovers, Saquon Barkley, the mistake by insert team quarterback coach here, right? Andy Reid didn't adapt. De'Ami Brown fumbled, Eckler fumbled, and it's like, sometimes it's very helpful to try to figure out what went wrong in the simplest fashion, in the simplest explanation. The O-line wasn't good enough. They fumbled the ball too much. They didn't run the ball enough. They took too many shots down the field. Whatever. They were too aggressive on fourth downs. They should have kicked field goals. Like, sometimes that is the absolute best way to go about it. Sometimes it does a massive disservice. It does a massive disservice. And people keep trying to simplify what happened with the Philadelphia Eagles because they still seem to struggle to accept. And again, I see it in the comment section. I see it on other takes. And that's why as soon as I saw this little soundbite from Mark Sanchez, I'm like, this actually kind of explains it perfectly. The two most important games of the entire season, the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl, 7 turnovers, 95 points. That is a dominant offense and a dominant defense. Dominant offense, dominant defense. Don't try to complement the offense and take away the defense. Don't try to take away the defense to complement the offense. Don't, it's all connected. It's absolutely all connected. And it's kind of surprising to see people still try to figure out how can we give the Philadelphia Eagles essentially like less credit. How can we say that this was like an easy path or that this was, like I'm still just seeing so many of these nonsensical takes. And those takes are starting to slowly fade away because we're getting farther and farther away from it at this point. And before we know it, by next week and the week after, it's just like it's already just a thing of the past. And it's just already on to like the draft and next season and all of that. So may as well kind of just put out those hater flames while they're still flickering around. But it is so fascinating that every Eagles video that I've done, I come across at least a handful of comments where people say something where you're just like what? Did you actually take the time to think that thought and verbalize it and then put it down and comment it? Like you like, huh? I'm grateful for the comment. I'm grateful for the interaction, but like, really? That's what you want to share? Like, really? That's what we're saying here? And it's I don't know. It still seems to be such a wild. I think I come from such an interesting experience with all of this because of how much of the comments I read and because I cover all the teams. And so it's just so fascinating to me to see how people make sense of what they see from various fan bases, from various different degrees of expertise. And to be clear, I'm not saying that my experience is the best or this or that. Like, I'm not saying that at all. I just think it offers an actual pretty, unique perspective because it's not a common perspective. I've never really come across it, quite frankly. And that's why I always try to verbalize my own experience for everyone else, because it's kind of like, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm observing. Again, right or wrong, it's what I'm observing. And we have the track record, right? You can read the comments yourself if you want. If you want my perspective, just read all the comments and you can see, watch the content, read the comments, watch all the interactions, And you get a fascinating landscape and view of all of this. And, you know, any conclusion that's not just the Philadelphia Eagles were dominant offensively and defensively, and masterclass from coaching, and masterclass to culture, and masterclass of ownership, and masterclass of GM building roster, and masterclass of pivoting when needing to, and masterclass of dealing with adversity, masterclass of coming together as a team, as a unit, as a family, as winners and losers, because they did lose games. I mean, anything shy of that, if you're trying to reduce it down to Saquon Barkley, turnovers, this team wasn't that good, you know, the other team, the team that they played wasn't that good, or, you know, the weather, whatever it is, you're just doing it wrong, and you're not understanding it. And that's why I actually probably the best sentence to sum this up is, in the two most important games, 7 forced turnovers, forced turnovers, and 95 points. That is what the Philadelphia Eagles did. That is wild. And again, make no mistake about it, 95, it could have been more. It should have been more. I mean, it could have been, you know, instead of 55, I mean, it could have been 62. And, I mean, who knows? I mean, they could have hung 50. I mean, at that point, the Eagles were literally just like, okay. And that's why you even hear Sirianni. He's like, if we score here, it's over. And that's what then made it 34. So at that point, they were just like, yeah. We're just now chilling. We're just milking the clock. We're limiting, you know, anything that we need to do. But, like, at that point, they could have continued to, you know, realistically put up at least another touchdown. At least. Not to mention, if you keep all the starters in, and you keep being as aggressive as you've been defensively, maybe force even more turnovers, you know, who really knows? But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Philadelphia Eagles? How do you make sense of this Super Bowl win, and how this, you know, how it unfolded, and why people still struggle with this idea that it was a great season, that it was like great, like there's still the sense that it was kind of like fluky, or that the Eagles had some good fortune their way. As Darius Slay even kind of had an interview where he was just like, everyone keeps trying to downplay this, and he's like genuinely confused why, which is why I still kind of am like, I'm still wrestling with so many of these takes where I'm just like, my brain is still kind of struggling to process it, and like, how can I convey this in the simplest terms? It's difficult. But let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.